All right, picture this. You're scrolling through the news and bam! Headlines scream about the Fed freezing rate cuts while home prices continue their relentless ascent. What's the deal with that, you wonder? Well, strap in, guys, because in today's video, we're unraveling the mystery behind how the Fed responds to high inflation. Yep, you heard it right. We're diving deep into the world of economics, exploring key strategies employed by the Fed to tackle rising prices. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me hit you with a story that'll make your head spin. Just a few years back, the Sri Lankan economy found itself teetering on the edge of collapse. Inflation soared, prices skyrocketed, and people struggled to make ends meet. It was like a scene straight out of a nightmare, with no end in sight. Sound familiar? Now imagine being in the shoes of those affected, the uncertainty, the fear, the desperate search for answers. But fear not, dear viewers, because in this video, we're shedding light on how the Fed navigates choppy waters like these, armed with a toolkit designed to keep the economy afloat. So buckle up and get ready for a roller coaster ride through the twists and turns of monetary policy. And hey, if you're enjoying the journey so far, why not hit that subscribe button and join our ever-growing community of curious minds? Trust me, you won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Let's dive in. Let's start with a word we've all heard tossed around: inflation. But what exactly does it mean for us and our wallets? Well, think of it like this. Imagine your favorite snacks suddenly cost twice as much at the store. Ouch, right? That's inflation, when prices for things we buy go up, making it feel like our money doesn't stretch as far. Now, enter the Federal Reserve, or the Fed for short. Picture them as the guardians of our economy with a mission to keep things running smoothly. How do they do it? Well, they've got a dual mandate. Think of it as a superhero's mission. Keep prices stable and make sure as many people as possible have jobs. So how does the Fed tackle this inflation beast? They've got some tricks up their sleeves, let me tell you. It's like they're playing a game of economic chess, always thinking a few moves ahead. Their main goal? To keep inflation in check so we can all afford our daily essentials without breaking the bank. But here's the thing, the Fed doesn't just sit back and watch. Oh no, they're the ones calling the shots. They're like the conductors of an orchestra, guiding the economy's ups and downs with their decisions. So, why does all this matter to you and me? Well, think about it. When the Fed does its job right, we get to enjoy a stable economy where prices stay reasonable and jobs are plentiful. It's like having a smooth ride on a roller coaster. No sudden drops or hairpin turns to ruin the fun. So the next time you hear about inflation and the Fed, remember, it's all about keeping our economy on track so we can focus on the things that really matter, like spending time with loved ones and chasing our dreams. Now, let's dive into the Fed's bag of tricks, starting with interest rates. Now, think of interest rates as the price tags on loans. When they go up, borrowing money becomes pricier, like trying to snag your favorite sneakers on sale but finding out they're suddenly full price. So, why does this matter for inflation? Well, when borrowing gets more expensive, people and businesses are less likely to take out loans. It's like if the cost of renting a car doubled overnight, you might think twice about hitting the road, right? That slowdown in borrowing means less money floating around in the economy, which can help put the brakes on inflation. But wait, there's more. The Fed isn't just a one-trick pony. They've got a few other tricks up their sleeve, like tinkering with reserve requirements for banks. Think of it like adjusting the amount of gas your car needs to run smoothly, too much, and you're guzzling fuel, too little, and you're sputtering to a stop. So when it comes to fighting inflation, the Fed's like a savvy chef whipping up a gourmet meal, carefully adjusting the ingredients to get the perfect flavor. And trust me, guys, they've got a whole recipe book of strategies to keep the economy cooking just right. All right, let's dive into the intriguing world of interest rates and how they play out in the housing market. But before we dive too deep, let's address a figure who's been making waves in economic circles: Larry Summers. Now, for those who aren't familiar, Larry Summers is a bit of a heavyweight in the world of economics. He served as the U.S. Treasury Secretary and has a laundry list of credentials to his name. But here's the kicker. Some folks have raised eyebrows at his track record, particularly during the 2008 global financial crisis. You see, Larry's been a vocal advocate for early action against inflation, urging the Fed to take swift measures. But considering his past role in the financial crisis, some question whether we should take his advice with a grain of salt. It's like asking a lifeguard for swimming tips when they were on duty during the Great Pool debacle of 2008. You might want to tread carefully. Now, let's shift our focus back to interest rates and their dance with the housing market. Imagine you're in the market for a new home. Exciting, right? But hold your horses, because those pesky interest rates can throw a wrench into your plan. You see, when the Fed decides to raise interest rates, it's like they're slamming the brakes on the lending train. Suddenly, borrowing money to finance your dream home becomes a whole lot pricier. And guess what? That can put a serious damper on the housing market's mojo. Think of it this way. Higher interest rates mean higher mortgage rates. And when mortgage rates climb, fewer folks can afford to buy homes. It's like trying to sell ice cream in the middle of winter, not exactly a recipe for success. But fear not, the relationship between interest rates and the housing market isn't all doom and gloom. In fact, when interest rates are low, it's like throwing gasoline on the housing market's fire. Suddenly, everyone and their grandmother is clamoring to snag a piece of the real estate pie. So, what's the takeaway here? Well, when it comes to the housing market, keep a close eye on those interest rates. They might just hold the key to whether it's a buyer's bonanza or a seller's stalemate. And as for Larry Summers, well, let's just say his opinions on inflation might be worth considering, with a healthy dose of skepticism, of course. After all, when it comes to economics, it pays to take everything with a grain of salt. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far and want more topics like this, comment the word "more" so I know. Alright, so we've talked about interest rates and how they can help control inflation. But let's not forget, inflation isn't just about too much money chasing too few goods. There's another major player in this game: supply chain issues. Imagine you're at your favorite coffee shop, craving your morning latte, but there's no coffee. The beans are stuck in transit somewhere across the globe. That's a supply chain problem. When products get delayed or are in short supply, prices tend to go up because there's less of that product to go around. Take a look at what happened during the pandemic. Factories shut down, shipping got all tangled up, and suddenly, everything from cars to electronics to even toilet paper was hard to find. These shortages drove prices up. It wasn't just about people spending more money, it was also about there being fewer goods available. And here's where it gets tricky for the Fed. They can't exactly speed up a ship stuck in a port or reopen a closed factory halfway around the world. Their tools, like adjusting interest rates, are more about influencing how much money people spend or save. But they don't have a direct line to fix these supply chain hiccups. It's like trying to bake a cake without enough ingredients. No matter how you adjust the oven temperature, that's your interest rate, you're still going to have a problem if you don't have enough flour. The Fed's got the oven under control, but they can't always control the supply of ingredients. So while interest rates play a huge role, we also need to keep an eye on these supply chain issues. They're a big part of why things cost more sometimes, and unfortunately, they're a bit out of the Fed's hands. Now let's dive into a concept that's like the bread and butter of economics, the inflation versus unemployment trade-off. You see, when we talk about the Fed's response to high inflation, we can't ignore the other side of the coin. Picture this: the Fed decides to put the brakes on inflation by raising interest rates. Seems like a smart move, right? Well, here's the catch. It could inadvertently send unemployment rates soaring. It's like trying to solve one problem but accidentally creating another. Let's break it down. When the Fed hikes up interest rates, it makes borrowing more expensive. And when borrowing gets pricier, businesses might think twice before expanding or hiring new employees. As a result, you've got more folks out there hunting for jobs, which can drive up the unemployment rate. So it's a bit of a balancing act, like walking a tightrope without a safety net. The Fed has to weigh the pros and cons of its actions, considering both the impact on inflation and the ripple effect on employment. And here's where clear communication from the Fed becomes crucial. They've got to explain their strategies in a way that everyone can understand, like breaking down complex economic jargon into plain, everyday language. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, navigating the twists and turns of the economy, hoping for smooth sailing ahead. So next time you hear about the Fed's response to high inflation, remember the delicate dance they're doing to keep both inflation and unemployment in check. All right, let's talk about the Fed's balancing act. Imagine you're walking on a tightrope strung high above a bustling city. On one side, you've got the fiery flames of inflation threatening to engulf everything in sight. On the other, the dark abyss of recession looms, ready to swallow the economy whole. That's pretty much the predicament the Fed finds itself in. So, here's the deal. The Fed's got this tricky task of keeping inflation in check without slamming the brakes so hard that it sends the economy careening off the road. Think of it like driving a car. You want to hit just the right speed to get to your destination without crashing into a ditch. And let me tell you guys, it's no walk in the park. You see, raising interest rates to cool down inflation can put the brakes on economic growth, potentially leaving folks out of work. On the flip side, keeping rates too low for too long can fuel inflationary fires, sending prices skyrocketing. Now imagine you're at a fancy dinner party, trying to balance a stack of plates on one hand while twirling a fork in the other. That's pretty much what the Fed's doing. They've got to juggle a whole bunch of competing priorities, from keeping inflation in check to ensuring people have jobs to go to. And let's not forget about communication. It's key to this whole tightrope act. The Fed's got to be crystal clear about their goals and strategies, kind of like giving your friend directions to the nearest coffee shop. Now let's hit rewind and take a stroll down memory lane. Picture this: big hair, neon spandex, and oh yeah, sky-high inflation rates. Welcome to the 1980s, a time when inflation was running wild and people were feeling the pinch in their wallets. But fear not. Along came a hero in the form of Paul Volcker, the Fed's very own inflation-busting champion. With his trusty toolkit of monetary policies, Volcker set out on a mission to slay the inflation dragon once and for all. Now you might be wondering, how did he do it? Well, buckle up, because this is where it gets interesting. Volcker unleashed a series of interest rate hikes so fierce they sent shockwaves through the economy. It was like hitting the brakes on a runaway train, sudden, jolting, but oh so necessary. And the result? Well, let's just say inflation got the message loud and clear. Prices stabilized, confidence returned, and the economy emerged stronger than ever. It was a triumph of epic proportions, a testament to the power of decisive action in the face of adversity. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Simple: history has a funny way of repeating itself. The Fed's past battles with inflation serve as a valuable lesson for the present day. So, the next time inflation comes knocking on our door, rest assured, the Fed will be ready to roll up its sleeves and fight the good fight once again. All right, let's put on our forecasting hats and take a peek into the crystal ball of inflation's future. What's on the horizon? Well, it's like trying to predict the weather, a mix of science, intuition, and maybe a little bit of luck. First up, we've got geopolitics. Fancy words, huh? Basically, it's all about the big players on the global stage and how their actions could shake things up. Think trade tensions, political upheavals, you name it. These geopolitical shifts can send shockwaves through the economy, influencing everything from prices at the pump to the cost of your morning cup of joe. Next on our radar, energy prices. Picture this: you pull up to the gas station, wallet in hand, only to be greeted by soaring prices at the pump. Ouch! Whether it's oil production woes or environmental regulations, changes in energy prices can have a ripple effect on inflation, touching everything from transportation costs to heating bills. And let's not forget about good old-fashioned supply and demand. Yep, it's Economics 101. When demand outstrips supply, whether it's for lumber, chips for your smartphone, or that latest must-have gadget, prices tend to climb. Keep an eye on those supply chains, folks, because disruptions could spell trouble for inflation. And there you have it, guys, how the Fed responds to high inflation. Key strategies explained from start to finish. We hope this journey through economics has shed some light on how the Fed tackles the tricky beast of inflation. Remember, the purpose of this video is to broaden your horizons in the realm of investing. It's not about handing you a ready-to-eat financial meal, but about teaching you how to cook one yourself. Investing comes with its share of risks and uncertainties, so it's crucial to wear your research hat and consult with qualified professionals before making any financial decisions. Keep in mind, past performance in investments is like last year's weather forecast. It doesn't necessarily predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Always weigh the risks and tread carefully when putting your hard-earned money at stake. Now, if you found this video helpful, I highly recommend watching my next video, which is the perfect complement to this one. Thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement is like applause for our efforts, and it motivates us to bring even more valuable content your way. So feel free to drop a comment below. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you in my next video.